Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to have you join us. We are the Waltham Park New Testament Church of God, the church that is one big family. And I am your host. I am Tamika Walters for this evening's session. Now, this evening we have a wonderful session for you. So if you are planning to get married, if you are single and unsure, whatever it is, I'm gonna ask you to join us this evening. You're gonna call a friend, you're gonna invite someone, because this evening we will be discussing courtship. So the Marriage and Family Life Group has a wonderful evening planned for you today. So come and join us. This evening we have no other than the great, a very good, I would think we're good friends. I hope if he differs, then he'll tell you. I think a very good friend of mine, Reverend Rohan Ambersely, and his beautiful wife, Lady Kishayne. So I'm gonna turn over to them and allow them to introduce themselves. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tamika. It's good to be with you and the church that is one big family. I want to commend the church on its series of conversations that I have been able to join in on some occasions, and I know it has been rich. So we're glad to be able to participate in this conversation and talk about courtship today. So we look forward to the conversation.
Okay, great, great. So, Rev, we're talking about courtship. And just before we get into the meat of the matter, tell me a little more about yourself and Lady Kishayne. So I know that you guys are married and you would have gone through courtship, but tell me about yourself and perhaps what was that like for you?
Okay, so let me start out, and then Sister Kishayne will come in, and I know maybe we'll add a lot more. But you know, in terms of the journey we have taken, we're actually going to be celebrating 15 years in
Rev, just
December.
repeat a little
So
for me, Rev. I didn't hear. You're sounding a
we're
little low.
we're going to be celebrating 15 years in December.
Oh,
So one of the things we typically do is that we count in months. So if you think about it, we're about 174 months now. So quite a journey, and it's amazing how the time has passed. The journey has been rich. We have journeyed, both in terms of as people without children, and right now we have three girls. So it has been an interesting journey, to say the least. I don't know if you want any other perspective that I want to add to that, but that's a kind of summary of where we are now until we kind of go back and talk a little bit about the courtship journey.
yes, yes. Thank you so much, Rev. And congratulations to you, sir. 15 years, but in your scope, it would be a
Yes,
hundred
there's
and what is it?
174 months because it's 14 years
174
and
months.
6 months so far.
Yes, I see that you're
Yeah.
sharp on the math, Rev. Sharp on the math. Okay, thank you so much. I'm happy. I'm happy that you said you have the different perspectives. So you are married and now you're married with children. I want you to give me an insight, and this time I'll just ask Lady Kishayne. So we're talking about courtship. What is the general scope for persons who may be watching and they're thinking about, perhaps they've heard of dating, but what truly is courtship? And tell me how you guys met. Lady Kishayne, I'm not hearing you. The audio, it's a little low.
Are you hearing me a little better now? Are you hearing me better now?
A little better, a little better.
Okay, right. So good evening, everyone. We actually met at Waltham Park, New Testament Church of God. So yay.
Yes.
Yes, and it was actually during a youth fellowship service that we first met. So as it relates to courtship, of course, this is another stage separate from just dating. Having met, having expressed, the friendly parts, in terms of where you're from, what are your plans, going through the initial steps and having now decided that I am ready to take the relationship to another level. I'm ready to settle. I'm ready to actually be a wife. That has to be something that is discussed in order for it to really become a courtship. It has to be more than just going out with you and going for ice cream, but it is certainly heading now in a particular direction, which is marriage. So that was decided and discussed among us in terms of where we're at and exactly we had interest in now becoming one in marriage.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you mentioned Waltham Park. So Waltham Park is the church that is one big family and the church that is big on making families.
Yes.
So Waltham Park, good job. Woo, cheers for Waltham. All right. So I noticed also that you mentioned that you met in a youth fellowship meeting. And I'm wondering now for those who are watching, if it means when next we meet for youth fellowship, our numbers would have increased, because you never know what will happen. It's very possible, very possible. I'm happy that you gave us, what is courtship? It is that next stage. So you have been dating, you have, expressed maybe admiration for each other. You're in the friendship stage, you're getting to know each other. But then after that, the conversations are starts to get a little bit, I would say, a little bit more interesting. It gets a little more deep. You're trying to do some self-check and introspection. Is this someone I want to spend the rest of my life with? Is this someone that I'm compatible with? What will be the next step after friendship? Will that be just it, or will it blossom into something else? Right. So I want you guys, along your journey that you had, I want you to tell me how long was your courtship, and we'll go with that. So how long was your courtship period?
Okay, so our courtship, relationship into courtship was over 2 years, and we actually courted more for a year.
A year. Okay. All right. So I want to know, as it relates to premarital counseling, what's your perspective on that? I know not many persons, I know for us at Waltham Park, we encourage it. I'm not certain that all persons would have had the opportunity to be exposed to it, depending on the nature of their relationship or culture, whether it's something encouraged or practiced. But Reverend Ambersely, what is your perspective on premarital counseling, and share your experience if you benefited from that?
Yes, premarital counseling is an important part of this journey. So for me and for us, premarital counseling is essential. In fact, from my perspective, you should you shouldn't journey without having an opportunity to sit with somebody who can be objective and trained.
Rev, I'm so sorry. Rev, I'm so sorry to have interrupted, but the audio, I'm not sure, the audio quality, I'm hardly hearing you. And I got a little delay where it freezes. And because we know the quality of what you have to say is so interesting and it will benefit so much, I cannot afford to miss a word.
All right, so let me know if you're hearing me any better.
Yes,
better?
That sounds, yes.
All
better.
right, great. So I was saying that premarital counseling is very essential. It provides significant benefit for the persons in courtship to have an opportunity to sit with somebody who is trained, to talk through the issues. Marriage is serious business and should not be entered into lightly. but advisedly, as said in marriage ceremonies. The real point is that as two persons coming from separate backgrounds, going into such an important relationship, it's important that the couple has an opportunity to raise issues, talk them through, address them appropriately, so that at the very least, you go into the marriage having worked through some of the issues that could be challenging in the marriage. I believe if that is not dealt with properly, it could become problematic. And our position is that premarital counseling is essential. In the context of our journey, it was a tremendously important part of our journey. It served to address several issues and to talk through important topics. In fact, Dr. Notice was our marriage counselor at the time, so we benefited tremendously from his wisdom.
Thank you so much. That is the pastor of the Waltham Park New Testament Church of God, Dr. Notice, yes. A very favorite of mine, yes. Thank you so much, Rev. So I liked the idea, the importance of it. And based on what you described just now, I believe then we can say that courtship then it's a foundation. It helps to build a good foundation for marriage. And it's essential. You recommend it. This is where I think it gives us the opportunity where there is a third party who is both, I would say, has the expertise to help to guide, and to sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes, you know, a new perspective, someone
Indeed.
who is able to ask the questions that we are either unable to ask, or sometimes for whatever reasons maybe don't quite see the answer as clear as they are. So I'm gonna ask an additional question. As it relates to the characteristics, what were some of the characteristics or qualities that you found significant, that you looked for in courtship? And I'm gonna ask you both to answer. Give a response.
Okay, so characteristics one. You hear me? Yeah, I'm saying. You hear me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Yes, so one of the main characteristics is that he had to be a good Christian.
Good Christian. Good. I hope you heard that, viewers. Not ordinary, but good Christian. Yes.
Yes, he had to really show that he loved the Lord. And that is developed over time, to show that he really has a deep love and that his relationship for Christ was sound and grounded. That was very important for me. So being a Christian was one, and one who also was a man of integrity. I wanted someone who, whatever you say, that's what you mean. Your words are your bond. You know, you can trust your words. So being a Christian, a man of integrity, I also desired someone who loved his family, because you can know based on how persons treat their own family now. You use that almost as a step to say, okay, well, if he doesn't take very good care of his mother or his sister, then that's a red flag. So being a Christian, being a man of integrity, being a family man now was very important for me, and somebody with whom I could just talk to easily, you know, someone you can have as a friend. So somebody you can share anything with. Those are some of the characteristics for me. And I just also wanted to just point out quickly that when we did courting, when we're courting and we started courtship, we did not go saying we have a date. This is the date we have. And, you know, we didn't set that first. We went, expressed our interest in each other, and then we were guided along the path. That happens sometimes where persons set the date and you get disappointed. So sometimes in the counseling, they realize that there are some differences that they probably just can't compromise. So I wanted to just point that out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lady Kishayne.
Yeah.
Rev, I'm not hearing you again.
I think the capacity to have a good conversation is something
Yeah.
that was important to me. You know, just the capacity to relate one to the other. You're going to spend a lot of time with this person. The ability to understand and you know, actually have meaningful conversation was important to me. One, and this is not something to be scoffed at. The issue of the extent to which the individual is connected to the Lord themselves. One of the things that I learned very early in my life is the idea of the love triangle, where God is at the apex of the triangle and man and woman at the base. And the closer you get to God is the closer you get to each other. I was actually very, very, you know, motivated by her passion for God and her love for God. Another thing, obviously, the natural beauty of the woman attracted me as well. So, you know,
Yes, I was wondering when you would get to that part, Rev.
Yeah, so those are all important qualities. And another important quality was her genuine, you know, love for people and energetic spirit. All of those things were very, very significant positives for me, and that contributed to my attraction.
Thank you so much. I was listening as you both shared, and I think that the compatibility started at that stage because so much of the qualities that you were both looking for, or the qualities that you thought important, the other party shared as well. And I was just wondering, for those who are listening, if you're just joining us, we are talking about courtship, and we are currently having a conversation with Reverend Rohan Ambersely, who is the pastor at the Sterling Castle New Testament Church of God, and his lovely wife, Sister Kishayne. They have 3 wonderful children, and you don't have to ask. You see, they get it from the beautiful mom. Now, Rev, you just, you know, you shared with us. They got it from the, and a little from their dad, and a little from their dad. But I noticed Sister Kishayne just shared with us and Rohan, Rev, about what it is that they looked at, the qualities that they thought about going into courtship. And I know so often, Sister Kishayne, I was wondering, you know, how you never start with tall, dark, and handsome. But then, Brother Rohan, I remember you're not as dark, as, you know, as pigmented as I am. So I don't know if that's why, but I just thought that perhaps then we need to, you know, those of us who are thinking about courtship need to get the characteristics in order. You know, sometimes the focus is on the physical and not on the heart or the depth of the person. And I was so happy as you shared. I just wanted it to be a guide for others, for those who are watching us, that you have to make consideration not just for the physical man, but for the spiritual man, that which lies within. And it may not be as easily seen with the eyes, but it will show. Because what's on the inside always comes on the outside. Yes. But you see, Reverend Rohan say, you know, he said that he saw her pretty face, you know, her beauty, you know. But Sister Kishayne, she never say it, you know. But I know that Rev, you're a handsome man. You know that. You know that you're a handsome man. Yes. So I'm happy, guys, as you share with us. So the fact that our conversation, guys, as we talk about courtship, what we want to bring out is a successful courtship, and courtship, a courtship process that is God honoring, one that honors God in the process. And Rev, you spoke to that when you spoke about having that triangle, that third person, that's God. And this is not, you know, some persons may think 3 is crowd, but that's not the type of 3 that we're talking about. It's not the friend that nobody wants to have. This, we're talking about the Holy Spirit. And you realize that Sister Kishayne shared with us that they never set a date. Now, that's a big one, because I know so many persons start with that, but it's good to know. And it's something perhaps we can, for those who are thinking about the journey, you can think about that approach, because not all courtship ends in marriage. Not all courtship ends in marriage. So we invite you to invite the Holy Spirit and have God as your guide. And these are some of the steps that you can follow to have a successful courtship, and a courtship that is God honoring. Okay. So another question I have for you, Rev, is what about the boundaries? Now you see so many persons have questions, and Rev, I know you get them in your spare as a minister. So many questions, and you yourself would have offered marital counseling about setting healthy boundaries and at the same time share personal value early on during the courtship. What's your advice to Christians and even for those? I mean, generally, it is God's standard of living. We know the world may not follow the Christian standards, but I think it's healthy and everyone should try this scope. So tell us about that part, the boundaries.
You said it well, Tika, in relation to the fact that as you journey, God should be a part of it. And by virtue of the fact that God is a part of it, it's important that you understand what God's objectives are. It is clear, and it's not something that we are unsure about. That sexual activity should happen in the context of marriage. And therefore, one of the important things for all young adults as they make a journey towards marriage is to manage their courtship in a responsible and God honoring way. A clear boundary has to be: we will not engage in sexual activity prior to getting married. I remember when I was Teens Ministries president, we had a camp during a time, and we had a camp song that says, "Do no ring, no thing."
Yes.
It's really a very practical principle that we have to elevate that says, listen, we are human beings. We are prone to all kinds of things, and therefore we have to set that boundary very, very early, and get very practical with the boundary as well, so that we put some guardrails around our relationship. Clearly, we are attracted to each other, we love each other, blood running through our veins, and therefore those kind of guardrails are important. The issue of having accountability partners is something very important, that somebody could pick up the phone and say, how is this going? Are you managing? And can check in with you. The issue of personal values is important. If you have in your mind that, listen, this is important to me, no sex before marriage is vital to me, ensuring that we're not dishonoring God is important to me, all of those things were vital. And on occasions when we felt the pressure and the pain, we had to lean on those very solid boundary decisions. Because the truth is, that's where it comes. We learn in scripture about men and women, but men who decided that they're going to take a particular path. Joseph, we know the story of Joseph. He said, how can I do such a wicked thing and sin against my God? It's something that for the Christian, successful courtship also means ensuring that we do not cross the line until we get married. And that was an important principle that we established, and we had accountability partners to help us along the way.
Okay. Thank you, Rev. I'm happy you mentioned it, because I would have asked about your DNA traits and if you are the regular flesh and blood. But I'm happy that you did make that clear. So for those who are watching, Rev has just declared he's not a saint. He is a normal man like you. Yes, like those who are joining us, like the brother and the cousin and the friends that you know. But what he did was that he established boundaries from early on, and he made a commitment and a dedication to stick to it. And part of the process to help to foster that was that he had accountability partners, and he leaned on God. So it wasn't a one-man thing where he figured he was going to carry on, you understand, by his own strength. But he had friends who could guide him along the way, ask questions. And like Joseph, if he had to flee, because he remembered the commitment that they made. So thank you so much for sharing, Rev. I hope those, it gives a different insight. And I think that it takes true dedication to make commitments and to stick to them. And that's a big thing. That's a good thing. And I'm sure that Sister Kishayne can say that these are some of the strengths that you would have harnessed during courtship that would have helped your relationship after, right, Sister Kishayne?
Yes, 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 yes.
And as you rightly said, Tamika, it's not something that you can do on your own, which is part of the reason why we also have to ensure that our relationship with the Lord is maintained. You can imagine if the person's courting lose connection with God, then the boundaries and the guardrails will themselves fall, because as you rightly said, we can't do it on our own. That's a huge thing, Tamika, in terms of ensuring we maintain our connection with God, so that connection can help us with our boundaries.
Thank you, Rev. So you heard it, guys. It's not a challenge. You know, I say they have so many this is not the challenge to take on your own. This is one where you have to keep Christ at the center, because when you keep Christ at the center, then it helps you to stay connected to the source that is able to give you the strength of God, because we know that some of the things and the challenges that we face are not for the strength of an ordinary man. So keep Christ at the center of it all. So I know that you guys, you know, you mentioned that you met at youth fellowship, and I remember you mentioned about camp, where I think Dr. Notice was a part of it as well. No ring, no thing. And the time when you were, I think, teens fellowship director, or a youth leader yourself. So I know based on the scope of conversation that you guys are very busy. So I don't understand, how did you find time for courtship with your other responsibilities in church, as well as, you know, perhaps work and school? How did you manage it all?
Well, that's an interesting question. The truth is, at that time, we were quite busy. A lot more busy now, but quite busy then too. I feel that, I mean, I don't recall it being extremely difficult, because I felt that we had things in their respective time frames, and paid attention to these things as per what would have been required at the time. And I feel that's an important thing. Sometimes sometimes as young adults, we perhaps lose perspective, and we allow one thing to consume the other, when perhaps just proper scheduling and proper prioritization, and ensuring that the main things remain the main things, and, you know, balance everything. If now is work time, is work time, and now is church time, is church time, and now it's time for, you know, speaking to the person I'm courting, then I do that. I felt that discipline would have helped us to balance a little bit, and indeed part of what helped us too is that there were moments when we would have interacted relative to things related to ministry, or relative to things related to work, or relative to things related to school, that would have given us an opportunity to relate, but also pay attention to the other important areas of our lives. As you can imagine, if we're discussing something relating to work, it's allowing us an opportunity to connect, but at the same time giving us insights into another important area of our lives. Or if we're thinking about something relating to studying, then that would have been an important part of working through as well that which applies to our own journey. So again, it's an issue of balance, it's an issue of prioritization, it's an issue of scheduling, because again, life is not the kind of clean cookie cutter divisions. So you have to know to work through all the requirements of life.
A lot of management, time management and balancing. Lady Kishayne, tell me, how was it for you? Was it a case where once you started courting Brother Rohan, your friends never saw you again? They forget what you look like? They don't even get a call from you ever again? Was that what it was like? Tell us what it was like for you.
No, that's not what it was like at all. He says that we were thankfully able to manage pretty well. And I was studying right when we met, about to finish up university. And thankfully, he was even able to assist me with that process. So as he says, sometimes what you're doing kind of interlaps with your, or help to strengthen the relationship. So I was studying, working part-time, and I was also very active in youth ministry at Waltham Park. But thankfully, I was able to manage, and my friends got their time. um, yes, my friends had to meet him. They got their time as well, and I was able to make a good friendship. Thanks for the friends that I still have up to date from Waltham Park. That I was able to, even over many years, still able to maintain those friendships. So as he says, you just have to try to balance, and I think we did very good in balancing at that time.
Thank you so much. I think you guys did a fantastic job, and so much so that you are here today, 175 weeks later.
Months.
No.
74 months.
174 months. Not weeks. Not weeks.
Months, you see, it's because that's I used to years, Rev have me thinking differently, and I'm not so quick at math, but 174 months.
Yes, 14
I'm
years.
I'm going to start checking that thing, I'm going to check my anniversary in months, and I'll see if my husband can figure it out. I may confuse him for a while. But thank you guys so much for sharing. And I'm so happy that you guys mentioned, the time management and balancing. And I just want to say, for those who are watching, you would have heard it from them directly. They still were involved during the courtship process. So, sometimes young persons may be of the opinion that, oh, I'm doing something for God, or I'm doing too much, there's no time for that, but it can be done. They achieved it. It's a matter of balancing your time. And I would believe that the fact that you were able to do school and to do work and to minister in church, that possibly helped you. It prepared you for courtship, because prior to courtship being a part of the relationship, or before your relationship with courtship, you would have been, doing the balancing act. So I just want to encourage our young persons, middle-aged persons, whatever age and spectrum you are, if you are desirous of having a marriage, and you're gonna have courtship, just know that you can still be involved. You can still be present and participating in your church, and your friends can still get to see you. It don't have to be a thing where you lock off and you're lost to the world. No, because some of those friends too, as Rev shared, you can have them as your accountability partner and have the conversations that will help to foster this firm foundation that we now see with Rev and Lady Kishayne. Now, I know that it has been all good so far, and I've absolutely tremendously enjoyed your story. But I want to ask, what were some of the fears you had going into marriage? So, you've passed the dating stage and you're at courtship now. More questions are being asked. There is maybe greater depth to the responses that are shared. You have a perspective on marriage, whether those you would have seen in the world or friends and family on your own. What were your fears during this journey and your thoughts on marriage?
Okay. Yes, as it relates to my fears, a few of the fears. One, I asked him very early, do you plan to study overseas? Do you plan to go overseas?
Straight to the point.
For me, I'm not into the distant relationship. I'm not into the distant marriage. So I wanted to know, did he have plans to study further overseas or to accept job offers overseas? Because for me, that was just a no. Yes. So I wanted to be clear from early, where he saw himself in another year or two, if it included traveling overseas. So that was one that I, because I'm saying if it is that he plans to, then that's gonna shift the whole the whole relationship, because I can't manage the distant relationship. Yeah. That was one. And two, I just wanted to be sure that I have someone who truly loves me, because I am not into the divorce business. It is sadly high in the church, but for me, marriage is one time, and I want not to just endure marriage, I want to enjoy marriage. So for me, I just wanted to make sure that the value of love, real love, is there from early. That comes what may, when we really say for better or for worse. That's what we really mean. And it is not until DEBT, but it's until DEATH. So that were some of my fears that I made known early, that I'm not into the divorce business. I want somebody to truly love me for who I am, love me unconditionally, and I want to make sure that they don't have any plans to go foreign, no plans to travel or to study overseas an extended period, because for me, I was not into a far or a distant relationship.
Thank you so much, Lady Kishayne. I'm happy that you just get to the point. So ladies, you see what Lady Kishayne did was that she faced her fear. She fessed up. She fessed up her fear. She spoke it, and she didn't allow it to go hidden off, and then perhaps at a later stage for it to appear, only to realize that no perspectives were shared on this matter. There was, you disagree, or you don't quite see eye to eye. So that I'm asking you, for those who are watching and you're thinking about courtship, confess your fears and speak them boldly, so that it is made known, and so that you're able to know that we see eye to eye, and this is what I believe. So just take a bold step like Lady Kishayne. Yes, Rev, you were saying.
Well, I don't know. I was here thinking a little bit about what those fears would be, and perhaps the biggest fear would have been a concern as to whether the person I'm getting married to would remain the person I fell in love with. Kind of that was perhaps one of the fears. But I don't know. Some of the other fears I would have faced during the pre-counseling, the premarital counseling phase. And would have been able to address some of those. Again, questions about commitment and genuine love, and whether I could deal with the person that all that this person represented. But in a real way, it was more about ensuring and having a sense that as I entered the marriage, I would have built some kind of confidence level. That would have said prior to marriage and subsequent to marriage, the person would essentially remain, for all intents and purposes, at the core who the person is, the person I would have fell in love with.
Yes, thank you, Rev. That's important, and I think some of the fears that you shared are genuine concerns, and some that we ourselves, for those of us who are married, and even for those who are possibly in the process of courtship, would have considered. The person that you're getting married to, will they change? Will they change so much so that you don't see eye to eye, and the core of what it is that you agreed on is now absolutely different. So I'm happy the way you shared it, because sometimes when we think about difference and we think about change, sometimes persons look at the physical being. So I believe I think I'm a skinny girl. But I was an even skinnier girl when I got married. And we grow, we change, we have children, our bodies change. So I'm happy that your focus would not have been on the physical, because that happens, I have friends who, gentlemen, they would have started marriage with a full head of hair. And not for reasons of stress, but now they don't have any hair. So I'm saying, if the partner had just focused on the physical, but look at the depth, the character of the person. And I think that is so important for us to build a foundation. And as you mentioned, when that foundation is solid, then you see the depth that's there remains. So come the changing tides of marriage, even though challenges may come, Lady Kishayne will be at the core that you knew then and that exists now. So I'm happy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's just an encouragement to those who are watching. Fess up your fears, make them known, have conversations about them, and just know that your faith is bigger than your fear. Use your faith to make you bold and to face them head on. And in having conversations, in getting guidance and counseling, you will be able to move on positively, because what we're having is conversations that will lead you to successful courtship, and courtship that is both God honoring and full of character building in this process of, you know, getting from dating to courtship and courtship to possible marriage. Now, I want to find out from you, what were some of your greatest expectations about marriage? I know some persons have, you know, for some persons, maybe, you know, their expectation lies within a financial nature. Some expectation is, you know, at a different scope. What were some of your greatest expectations about marriage?
My greatest expectations about marriage. I'm not sure.
Lady Kishayne is passing it to you.
I think, you know, it was really about building a future and building a life. I've always been somebody who has an orientation about the future, and, you know, always had a sense of vision of what I want my future to be. And there was always, though not very clear, there was always a sense that, you know, I'm looking forward to building my life with my future wife. I'm looking forward to having children at the right time. I'm looking forward to solving problems and doing things together. One of the bold things that we did was that at the beginning of towards the end of the courtship, we decided to purchase a house at that time. So it was a decision made before we were actually married.
That's a bold move.
And an extremely bold move. And those discussions with the relating to the acquisition of property started then. And so much, I mean, so again, it was a reflection of a desire I had, build a very solid foundation and to build a future with Kishayne that would have led to joy and peace. And, you know, I used to think very early in my life, maybe from a teenager, that I want my home to be a haven. And clearly my wife should contribute to creating that sense of peace and tranquility and harmony in the home. So a lot of my expectations surrounded that vision of a harmonious home and a future that was bright and meaningful. So I may have had this blissful perspective that you know would have perhaps guided me. I mean, in a very practical way, but at the same time, I had those in my mind.
Okay, Lady Kishayne, for you, what were some of your greatest expectations?
Great expectations, because I had great expectations because I see marriage. I'm getting married only once. I do I can make it great. Certainly not in my own strength, but as I thought about marriage, I thought of the fact that, I mean, this two of us coming together in this whole matrimony and becoming one. And in addition to satisfying our own desires, I also thought of how good it would be in the kingdom, you know, to add value to the kingdom. Yes. And just to live a life of love that others can see that marriage works. It's hard work, but it works, especially for us who have strong connection with Jesus Christ. Marriage still works. So I was just looking forward to being a great wife, looking forward to having beautiful children, to the point that I didn't give him a number. I said I would just have as many as I can.
Oh, are we still at that stage? Tell me, Sis Lady Kishayne, are we still at that stage? So we never know what can happen. 3 and counting. 3 and yes. Counting.
3 and counting. 3 and counting.
It is not my view that she's at the same stage. Let's just, you know, that I don't have that perspective. I think she has progressed here, Tamika.
Yeah, I think she's winning because not one, but two, but three. I think she has the upper hand. I think she has the upper hand.
Yes, so I mean, I was just really looking forward to a harmonious time, just loving him and being loved, and just as it were, just giving him my everything. And I really had very big expectations of a great marriage.
Thank you so much. Guys, you've heard it here. So you may have read the story, that often have happy ending, and they say, and they lived, what the stories normally say, they live
Ever
happily
after.
ever after. We have our own, well, it's not really the Cinderella story,
No.
but you see, we have, in fact, we have a princess and we have a prince, and they have a happy ending. The journey still continues for them, however. And remember that there are three and counting. You never know what can happen. I will keep you posted if I ever get the opportunity to share again, and I'll give you an update on them. I'm happy you guys shared what your expectations were. And I thought there were some bold ones that, purchasing of a property, that's big. That's something often persons, after being married for years, that's the stage that, they engage on. But I'm happy that when you shared, my thoughts were that your expectations were high. Your expectations were high. And I just want it to be an encouragement for us that you don't have to set the bar low. So you can't make your fear cripple you so much so that you don't make bold moves, or your expectations and your dreams aren't big enough. With Christ, you can accomplish everything. So set the bar high, be the best version of yourself, and be the person who offers, as Lady Kishayne says, offer yourself over in service, because I believe marriage is service to each other, who offer yourself over in service to the other. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful story. And must I tell you, I'm so very proud of you both. I can't have the feeling of a proud mother because you're just a little older than me, but I'm having a proud moment here. I'm having a proud moment. I'm very proud of you both. Okay, no, you see a lot of persons maybe, when they talk about courtship and they talk about marriage, they talk about money. So we are at that stage, people, and for all the money people there, who love talk about money move and money matters. Listen, this is where you're about to be schooled, and you're going to learn. You see, I have a view that Rev is very good with money, and figures. I don't know, something about the 170 for months. I got it. Months, yes. Something about that calculation have me thinking he's very good with finances. So tell us, what about finances? What about savings or even debt, the part that the DEBT that Lady Kishayne talk about? Tell us about these areas, and did you focus on them? Did you discuss them? What are some of your advice to us and guide to us as it relates to finances and courtship?
Yeah, so there were some big ticket items that we would have explored in counseling, but there are also some big ticket items that we discussed outside of counseling. Issues, if you read the statistics, Tamika, issues like money and communication would have been major issues in terms of impacting the quality of marriages. I think a big part of what we at least tried to do was to understand each other's attitude towards money, and to talk about how that relates to the process of courtship and marriage. In the same way that communication and you know talking about chores and how those will be allocated are important. Talking about money is also important, and understanding the differences in terms of how we see money and how we perceive money would have been major. In fact, I think in a major way it has helped us in our marriage, because how we see money and how we approach money is actually quite different between us. And some of those early discussions and some of those later discussions also helped, because we don't want to give the impression, Tamika, that the it's always as a smooth sailing. Sometimes there are differences of our opinion, and sometimes there are differences of views, and sometimes the journey you take in courtship actually enables you to better manage challenges that you may end up with, manage challenges that you may end up with in marriage. And some of those early conversations helped us in a major way. I don't know if Kishayne wants to add to that.
I was in the bank. I was working at the bank at the time when we met. You think really and truly, Tamika, you're right. He is great with money. Even though I worked in the bank, own exposure to
So sorry, Lady Kishayne, I'm going to ask you to repeat just now. We had a little technical interference and I wasn't hearing you, so I'm going to ask you to repeat.
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was saying that when we met, I was working at the bank. So I will have experience in terms of invest, save, interesting. My husband, Rohan at the time, was also very active with money. He was very good in terms of understanding to budget, and he was sticking to the budget more than I was. And like that. Yes, so I'm happy we both had good sense of money and how to invest and save and because he was stricter, as it were, as it is to managing money. So where everyone probably buy something, to remember, buying a house, no one is on kind of not stand that shoes, right? You have to know, remember to save the deposit. So that helped a lot in the process.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You heard it, they said that they don't always agree on finances, but guess what? It's always a conversation that they share. Because when you marry, two become one. And if it is that you are going to have courtship, then it means that even when the finances, you're having discussion, that there will have to be some agreement there, you'll have to come into an understanding of each other. You may have different spending habits. You may have different perceptions on finances or wealth or money, but it's a conversation necessary because it's something that you will share together along the way. Thank you so much, guys. Now, I know that we had the conversation and we have established, for those who are joining us, remember we are joined by Reverend Ambersely and Lady Kishayne, and they have three beautiful girls who look like their mother and a little of their dad. A little, he's there, so we have to give him some credit. We have to give him.
True. They look more like him.
They look like him?
Yes.
So do I say they look like their beautiful dad? No, they look like they're handsome. They're handsome dad. No, I have the question. We know that we're now at 3 and counting, but what about having children? What was the conversation like during courtship about that? I know some persons discuss it and some persons don't, but what was the conversation like for you about having a family of your own?
Yeah, at the time, I think we did have some conversations about it would have perhaps focused on issues of approach as parents, as well as there was a conversation around preferable number of children. I think at the time I may have been around 4, 2 boys, 2 girls was kind of the vision I had. I could have that vision because my wife was saying, you know, I don't put any limits.
Yes.
As I said earlier, I don't think she has that position anymore. But that was the conversation at the time. Again, the vision for a healthy, happy home would have included talking about the approach to parenting, and the approach to ensure we grow up our children in the right way, and the approach to ensure that our children don't make the mistakes that we made. Those kinds of a discussion would have been major parts of what we had. But yeah, we certainly included discussions about family and children during the courtship period.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So you heard it. It's a conversation that you can have. There may be changes. Yes, Lady Kishayne.
Yes, and just that during the courtship, during our counseling, you know, once we reach because we counseled for a year.
Very wonderful.
Formal premarital counseling for a year, and once we reached a particular level, you know, that most things we agreed on most things. As it relates to family, though, I want to just say here, for persons who are courting, that for me, I like to know things kind of, to be clear, going in. So what we did a medical, and that's important as people who are courting. We did a medical, and so we're clear on what is happening going into the marriage. So we're clear that, you know, there are no major physical challenges, and if there were, then we would have known how to deal with it. So I just want to make reference to that when you reach a particular stage in courtship, when you make the decision to go medical, it gives you clearance as to what you're dealing with. And that was also big for me in terms of just going in knowing that we're both good to multiply.
Thank you. That's a good one. So guys, you see, I hope you have been taking notes. It's a very, 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 very good approach, because guess what? You are unable to treat something if you are unaware of it. So it's very good. Lady Kishayne just shared that during the courtship process, they had their medicals done so that they were able to give account of their physical being, the physical man, their health and their wellness. And so they would know that if there were challenges, then how they would deal with them as they went along. So I hope that you have placed that on your priority list as you engage in your courtship session, either if you're in it now or to come. Now, I just want to say that you know, it has been a beautiful story that you have shared, and I just want to encourage you, Rev, that you said 2 boys and 2 girls. That's a total of, you say, I can do small math, I can work with these small numbers. That would have been 4, and you are now at 3, so that leaves 1 for you. I'm cheering for you, Rev. I'm rooting for you, okay?
Pray for me, pray for me, pray for me.
Oh, Lady Kishayne, you have the strength of a goddess. You will be able to, you'll get over that. I know you can, because you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
Amen.
Is that a good use of that scripture, Rev?
You're preaching, you're preaching.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Okay, now I have a question for you as we wind down in this conversation. We're so happy that you could join us. We ask that you like, that you share, and that you continue to support the Waltham Park New Testament Church of God as we continue to bless you with rich family content that is for holistic development. So if there's someone you know who has any idea to be in a relationship at all, this is a video worth sharing. Now, my question to you is, what about settling family problems? You know, problems are a part of life, and challenges, they say, are for champions. So I want you to give, for those who are entering courtship, an advice as it relates to, you know, handling disputes or differences? What's a good approach to take?
Yeah, I feel a couple of things. One is the reality of the human journey. You know, it's my conviction, Tamika, that sometimes we act as if we're not human beings. That somehow we feel that, you know, we are somehow merrily life is just a dream kind of an experience. But I think once we acknowledge and expect challenges, then we approach it differently. I certainly feel that, you know, during our courtship, there were issues that we had to work through. There were issues that we had to confront and address. And I feel some of those disciplines help us now. I have it as a big thing, the way I will say that a challenge or a difficulty is not something that we should think will not come. So I think as a rule of thumb, expecting it is always an issue. It's always an important issue. In other words, saying when this comes up, it's not I'm going to hold my head and scream out and say, "Oh, we're dead now." But realizing that this is a part of life, this is a part of the journey, and approaching it with the right mindset makes a difference. I think a commitment to love also helps. That if I approach conflict and challenges with a sense that says you are not my enemy, you are not my adversary, we are partners in this journey. It is an important principle. So when a difficulty arises, we make sure that we were standing on the right foundation, that even though it's a challenge, it's not something that needs to become a destructive force. That has been helpful. Those are important lessons we learned during courtship, because there were moments during the courtship where there were issues that we had to really grapple with. And I feel that has been helpful in the marriage journey as well. And certainly in relation to challenges that we have in our marriage, family conflicts, those kind of issues, differences of opinions, strong difficulties. It's some of those principles that help us to work them through.
Thank you, Rev. Thank you so much. So you see, Rev said it, the ordinary man and the man, because sometimes I know we think, especially Rev, persons are of the opinion that men of the cloth, as they would say, they're not quite human and they don't experience challenges or problems. But he shared that he is human, and yes, problems are part of life. But he encouraged us to remember that you have a partner. It's your partner and not the problem. So you think too about preparation and perspective that you would have maybe gained during courtship period, and you use those to help you move forward. And remember, love. Above all, love is the key. So even in the face of challenges, we are going to love each other as we work through them. It has been such a blessing to have shared with you this afternoon. And I'm so truly thankful that we had this rich conversations. If I could put a monetary value on it, Rev, I would say that it is priceless. It is very priceless. I'm so thankful that you could join us and just have honest, open conversations about your life that can help those who are engaging in courtship, so that we can have successful courtship and we can have God-honoring courtship. So as we are coming to the end of our program, I want you to just say your final words as it relates to your advice on having a successful courtship. I'm going to ask you both to share.
Yes, I'm going to allow Lady Kishayne to go first.
Okay. So my advice as it relates to successful courtship is that, one, you must ensure that you have a love for God. Love the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind and your strength. Because your love for God will significantly impact how you live your life. So as it relates to having a successful courtship, your love for God, and also be very open early in your communications. Lay things out early as you engage in your communication. And just be very honest from early, and also ensure that you seek counseling very early too. Not going when the date is set, but ensure that you go through the process so that you don't end up having any regrets. And lastly, just ensure that love also is the foundation. That you love the person, not what they bring to the relationship, but you love them unconditionally.
Yeah, if I was to offer advice, I think part of the recognition we have to have is that we're all having our own individual journeys, and you know, one person's journey will not be equal to another person's journey. I think we all have to be willing to take our journey, but some general principles. One, ensure you enter with the right objective. You know, sometimes we obsess about the wedding, but the wedding is only a day. The marriage is for a lifetime. And the courtship is about preparing for the lifetime and not just preparing for the day. So one, we have to be willing to take our time and not get involved in anything that can be destructive to the journey ahead. So that's one. I think the issue of establishing certain principles very early and agreeing to those principles can be very, very helpful. If you don't, then the courtship can become derailed by things that you never actually planned for. I think also spending time to plan and to prepare is also very, very meaningful. Again, it is to understand, one, that you're not yet married, so courtship is not marriage, but as you look towards marriage, there's value in planning and preparing in prayer, preparing in financially, preparing in any way possible, because again, being successful in marriage will require a particular kind of person, and the courtship is also part of that preparatory process. So take time, plan, prepare, and make sure to keep praying too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will be celebrating my anniversary in December, like you, 14 years. But this was so good, I had to write it down. Rev, I hope that you can send me these notes. This is worthy of sharing. So remember, love for God. Lady Kishayne said love for God. Lay things out early. I hope those who are listening that you're taking notes. I'm going over some of these points for your benefit. Seek counsel early, and good counsel at that. Remember that love is the foundation for all. So think about your love for the person, your genuine love, and not the strings that are attached. Enter into courtship with the right perspective. And as we would do, you know, remember Lady Kishayne, when we were getting married, you know, some of us, we did our nails and we did our makeup and we got our hair done. So the same way we prepare for the wedding, but I ask that you engage in premarital counseling, which is not preparation for the wedding, but preparation for the marriage. I also got where we have to remember to do our prep early. Get your perspective right and establish your principles from early on. Remember, those are the principles that help to give you boundaries and guidelines. And as Rev said, plan, prepare, but the greatest one, pray. Because as Christians, we keep Christ at the center of it all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having extended to us your attention. Thank you so much for sharing. You have just witnessed bold conversations about courtship with Reverend Rohan Ambersely and his lovely wife, Lady Kishayne, who are ministers at the Sterling Castle New Testament Church of God. Rev, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And have a good evening, everyone. Remember to like, remember to share, and stay blessed. Continue to follow us too at the Waltham New Testament Church of God. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Tamika. Thanks for having us. You did an outstanding job. You should consider a career in media.
Oh, Rev, thank you, thank you. Say a little prayer for me. Say a little prayer. Thank you so much, guys. It was so wonderful to have you.